This police chief's son walked into Judge Judy's courtroom like the law belonged to his family. But by the end of the hearing, even his father couldn't protect him from what was about to come out. The courtroom was already tense before anyone said a word, not loud, not chaotic. Just tense in that quiet, dangerous way, where every chair creak feels too sharp, every breath feels too heavy, and everyone in the room knows something ugly is sitting just beneath the surface. On the plaintiff's side stood Harold Bennett, a 72-year-old veteran with silver hair, tired eyes, and the kind of posture that told you he had spent a lifetime refusing to bend. Even when life tried to break him, he wasn't dressed like a man looking for attention. No expensive suit, no flashy watch. Just a clean button-down shirt, an old military pin on his chest, and both hands resting carefully on the table in front of him. But look closely. His right hand trembled, not from fear, from pain. And on the left side of his face, near the cheekbone, there was still a faint yellow bruise that makeup couldn't hide and time hadn't fully erased. Across from him stood Derek Mallory, 26 years old, perfect haircut, Dondard jacket, that relaxed, arrogant lean against the defense table like he was waiting for a parking ticket to disappear. And that was the first thing everybody noticed. He wasn't nervous, not even a little. He had the face of a man who had never truly faced consequences. A man raised in the shadow of authority, protected by a last name, trained by life to believe apologies were optional when your father's badge was powerful enough. And sitting behind him, stiff as stone, was his father, Police Chief Raymond Mallory. The room felt it immediately. The badge wasn't on his chest that day, but its weight was still there. You could feel it in the way people looked away from him. You could feel it in the way the defendant kept glancing back, almost like he didn't need a lawyer because his father's presence was the real defense. Now listen carefully, because this is where the story becomes disturbing. This wasn't just about a young man allegedly assaulting an elderly veteran outside a grocery store. This was about power, the kind of power that doesn't have to shout, the kind that walks into a room quietly and expects everyone to move aside. And Judge Judy saw it before anyone else did. She sat behind the bench, glasses low, expression unreadable. No drama, no smile, no patience wasted. She looked first at Harold Bennett, then at Derek, then, very slowly, at the police chief sitting behind him. That silence lasted maybe 3 seconds, but in a courtroom, 3 seconds under that kind of stare feels like a lifetime. The bailiff called the case. Harold Bennett stepped forward. Derek Mallory adjusted his jacket, and Judge Judy leaned back slightly. "Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice sharp but controlled, "you're suing the defendant for medical expenses, property damage, and emotional distress after what you describe as an assault." Harold swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor." His voice was steady, but barely. That's something people often miss when they watch courtroom footage. Trauma doesn't always sound dramatic. Sometimes it sounds quiet. Sometimes it sounds like a man forcing himself not to fall apart in front of strangers. Judge Judy glanced down at the paperwork. "You say this happened outside a grocery store?" "Yes, ma'am. And you say the defendant hit you?" "He did." Before Harold could say another word, Derek let out a small laugh. Not loud. Just enough, a little breath through the nose, a tiny smirk. But the courtroom heard it. And Judge Judy definitely heard it. Her eyes lifted. "Something funny?" Derek straightened slightly. "No, Your Honor." But that smile stayed on his face for half a second too long. And that half second told a story. This is classic entitlement behavior. When someone believes the outcome is already secured, they don't react to accusation with fear. They react with annoyance, not because they didn't do it, but because they're offended that anyone is making them answer for it. Judge Judy turned back to Harold. "Tell me what happened." Harold took a breath, and for the first time, his eyes dropped. "I was walking to my truck. I had groceries in both hands. The defendant's car was parked across 2 handicap spaces. A quiet murmur moved through the gallery. Derek shook his head, already irritated. Harold continued. "I asked him if he had a placard. I wasn't rude. I just asked. He told me to mind my business." Judge Judy looked at Derek. "Did you say that?" Derek shrugged. "Something like that. He came at me aggressively. Now pause right there, because that word, aggressively, is doing a lot of work. This is a common strategy when a stronger person hurts a weaker person. They don't deny contact at first. They change the emotional frame. They try to turn a question into a threat. They try to make the victim look unstable. But Harold Bennett was 72. Derek Mallory was 26. And the bruise on Harold's face wasn't theoretical. Judge Judy's voice lowered. "Mr. Mallory, you're telling me a 72-year-old man carrying groceries came at you aggressively?" Derek tilted his head. Age doesn't mean someone can't be aggressive. The courtroom went still, not because the answer was smart, because it was cold. Harold's jaw tightened. For a moment his hand gripped the edge of the table like he was back somewhere else. Somewhere loud. Somewhere dangerous. Somewhere he had survived decades ago, only to end up standing in a courtroom explaining why a young man half his age had knocked him to the pavement. Judge Judy noticed. "Mr. Bennett," she said, softer now, "continue." Harold nodded. "I told him those spaces were for disabled people." He stepped toward me. He said, "Do you know who my father is?" That sentence landed like a match hitting gasoline. All eyes shifted, not to Derek, to the police chief. Chief Mallory didn't move, but his face changed, barely. His lips pressed together. His eyes narrowed just a fraction. And Judge Judy caught that too, because experienced judges don't just listen to words. They watch the room after the words are spoken. They watch who flinches, who freezes, who looks away. Derek quickly cut in. "I never said that." Judge Judy snapped. "I didn't ask you." Silence, the kind of silence that makes even arrogant people remember where they are. Harold continued. "He pushed me. I fell against my truck. My groceries dropped. I told him I didn't want trouble. Then he hit me." His voice cracked on that last sentence, not loudly, just enough to reveal the wound underneath. "He hit me here." Harold pointed to his cheek. "I fell. My glasses broke. My wrist hit the curb." For the first time, Derek looked annoyed enough to stop pretending. "That's not what happened." Judge Judy turned. "Oh, you'll get your chance." Derek's attorney, a clean, polished man with a nervous smile, placed a hand lightly near Derek's arm, a silent warning. "Calm down. Don't react." But Derek couldn't help himself. That's the problem with people who grow up protected. They learn confidence, but not discipline. They learn how to intimidate, but not how to sit quietly when the truth starts circling them. Judge Judy looked at the file again. "Mr. Bennett, you filed a police report?" "Yes." "With the same department where the defendant's father is chief?" "Yes, ma'am." "And what happened?" Harold hesitated. That hesitation was important, because it wasn't confusion. It was fear. The room felt it. Even the people watching from the gallery leaned forward. Harold said, "They told me there wasn't enough evidence." Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. Now the energy changed. It was no longer just a civil case. It was no longer just about medical bills. Something much bigger had entered the room. A possible cover-up, a powerful family, a veteran left bleeding in a parking lot, and a police report that somehow went nowhere. Judge Judy looked directly at Derek. He looked back with that same calm expression. But his left foot started tapping, small movement, fast rhythm. That's the body betraying what the face is trying to hide. Judge Judy noticed, the attorney noticed, even Harold noticed. Then Judge Judy asked the question that shifted the entire courtroom. "Were there cameras in that parking lot?" Derek's foot stopped, just like that, stopped. "And if you were watching closely, that was the first crack in the armor." Harold nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Judy leaned forward. "Do you have the footage?" Harold opened his mouth, but before he could answer, Derek's attorney stood up so quickly, his chair almost scraped backward. "Your Honor, we object to any video being introduced without proper." Judge Judy raised one hand. He stopped mid-sentence. The courtroom froze. Derek turned toward his lawyer. And for the first time, the smirk was gone. Chief Mallory sat perfectly still, too still. And Harold Bennett reached down into his folder with trembling fingers. The entire courtroom watched as he pulled out a small flash drive. And then Judge Judy said the 7 words that made Derek's face go pale. "Bailiff, let's see what really happened."